slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented
Good evening, everyone. Joe here with the big apologies to Sean, Charles, and everybody out there that were waiting for the show to begin. I had a lot of problems with connection, and they were telling me 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and nothing was coming on. And it finally just came on. So I don't want my blood pressure to go a million miles. So again, I apologize to Sean, Charles, and everyone waiting for the show. I can't talk because I'm a little bit upset. Again, very, very hard when there's not much you can do about it and you have to wait. So I do have Sean again. Apologies and apologies from the Verizon people for us to have this one glitch, and finally we are back. Hopefully better than ever. And again, please accept our apologies.
Well, apologies accepted, and it just means we got a great show coming for y'all. So
yeah, you got a lot of people watching as of right now. So thank you for the patience, everyone, and just get ready for a really good show. We are waiting for Charles, and I think we do have him here, hopefully, and we'll bring him up. Yes, we're going to try to bring him up, and let's see.
Hello.
Hey, Charles, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
So sorry for the blackout here, but we've got you guys on now. If you got a little bit more light, Charles, so people could see you a little better.
Let me turn on the yellow light. Hold on a second.
Okay. All right. In the meantime, Sean, you could get going and have a great show. And again, apologies, and I'm sure it's going to be a great show. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we let the guys do their thing. Sean, have a great show. Guys, have a great show.
All right.
Is that better?
It's a little better, but just keep talking. Don't worry about it. Just, guys, have a great show, okay?
I think it's good now.
Yeah, it's better. Okay.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
Take it away, guys.
All right, guys. Hey, before we start, I just want to say thank you guys for hanging in there while we work through these technical difficulties. We apologize for the delayed start due to those technical difficulties, but in real life, you're going to have problems. But we're going to bring you another great show of History of the New York Yankees with Charles right here next to me and myself. And we're going to cover the years of 1927 to 1941. Are you ready for this, Charles?
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Let's go.
Right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the show. Thank you.
All right. So, one of our greatest teams and dynasties in the Yankees started it off in 1927. Murderers Row, as it's called. 144 or 110 wins, 44 losses, and 1 tie.
Yeah, and that's when it's, and from 1927 to 1941, the 15 seasons, that 15 season span, they won 8 world championships. So that's basically when the dynasty started to kick in,
Mm-hmm. And it, and as I was looking, I mean, even before then, we started making the World Series almost perennially, and even during the span, except for maybe a few years, we were pretty
Right.
much in contention for the World Series every single year. And we had a
Exactly.
lot of players turn over, but we had some great ones, and we're going to cover some of the great ones. Obviously, we know Babe Ruth and we know Lou Gehrig.
Right. But
And we're gonna.
the 1941 team, they weren't no slouches either. They had
Oh
some good
no,
Hall of Famers on that team too.
yeah, and there's something special about the 1941 team, and we're gonna cover a little bit more of that because that's the year right before when they won. They lost a lot of stars like Joe DiMaggio, Bill Dickey, even Yogi Berra, who was a young minor league prospect at that time.
Right.
Red Ruffing, and a few others to serving in the military during World War II.
Yes.
Um, so, and we're gonna cover that in our next episode, where the war years, and then building off of that. But
Yes.
um, but we're gonna cover about guys like Red Ruffing, who when he came to the Yankees, he was a struggling pitcher before the Yankees. Um, and through convincing and with another pitcher, that an old former pitcher who helped him make mechanical adjustments, and he became a Hall of Famer after that.
Yeah, you
Where
also had Lefty Gomez on that team and Red
Mhm.
Ruffing, and they both had almost identical records in that 1941 year. Lefty Gomez
Yeah,
was 15-5 with a 3.74 ERA, and Red Ruffing was 15-6 with a 3.54 ERA. So basically, almost the same, almost.
right. And but like when you look at it here, from 1927 to 1932, you had the guys that were the murderers row, because in 1932 you had a lot of guys retire from the murderers row, like Bob Musial and Mark Kerning. They had
Yes,
retired.
yes,
Even Pat Collins, who retired in 1930 and gave way for Bill Dickey after sharing time in 1929. You see a lot of these guys, give way and pass the torch, but they were
yep,
still winning games. It was like, you know, but I mean, it was obviously the top two teams, and we were battling Connie Mack and the Philadelphia Athletics in the
yeah,
AL pretty much every year.
yeah, and that was one of those. That's one of those super teams back then. They were like a super team because
Mm-hmm.
that one year we were I forgot what year it was, but we were 18 games behind them. That's how
Right.
good they were.
1929, or yeah, 1929. Because we went to three straight Super World Series in 1926, 1927, 1928. In
Right.
1929, we fell 18 games behind the Athletics for the pennant.
Yeah, and
And
that's
then the
Connie
Athletics,
Mack, who's a great
yeah,
manager, Hall of Fame
yeah.
manager.
And Miller Huggins is also a Hall of Famer. And,
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
pretty great, but his health started waning in 1929, 1930.
yeah. He died in September of 1929.
Mm-hmm. And,
Yep.
but then he made way for a guy in between John McGraw, or Joe McGraw, who's a legendary manager, took
Right.
over in 1931. But the interim
Exactly.
manager in between them was not too bad. He was not too shabby. He was a great, but he was more of a pitcher, an ex
Right.
player, and
Yes.
I keep forgetting his name, but yeah, he helped keep the team afloat. But I mean, when you got legends like Lou
Yeah.
Gehrig and Babe
Yeah.
Ruth.
Babe Ruth, and you got Hoyt Wilhelm. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
White Hoyt and all them guys. Yeah, 22 wins, and you got one guy's got 100. Blue Gehrig, AL MVP with 373 average, 47 home
Yeah.
runs, and 173 RBIs. Who does that?
Yeah, I
Only
mean,
Superman do that.
right. It's crazy. This guy was hitting 37, 30, 40 homers, and these parks were like 400 to 500 feet. the center you know what I mean? It was like, 408 feet. Today is like deep outfield, right?
Yeah, Yankee Stadium was what 465 to dead center, and the
Dead
monuments,
center,
some of
yep,
the monuments were on the
465.
park. Yeah,
Right.
I
And
mean,
then
and the alley
four
was like
court.
485. It's
Yeah,
crazy. To hit
yeah,
a ball that far.
right. And but they kept adding people like we said, we acquired Red Ruffing in 1930. And he helped with along with Herb Pinnock and with Wyatt Hoyt and those other guys, and then Lefty Gomez in 1932. You're looking at, man, because and we're gonna go deep on 1932 because this is really interesting.
Yeah,
Because 1932, I mean, we all hear about the legend of the called shot, but
right.
that team won 107 games.
Yeah, yep. He called it. Yeah, and then yeah, that was an awesome team too. That's when they played the Cubs, right? That was the night
Yeah, they
they
played
played
the
the
Cubs
Cubs in the World
in the
Series.
fame, yeah,
Yeah,
World Series, and
right.
then Game Three, I think it was Game Three or Game Four. It was a win in Chicago, but one of the two
Yeah,
games that played there because it was a 4-game sweep.
yeah,
Babe Ruth allegedly called his home run, called the home run, and he hit it to the spot where he pointed.
yeah.
But what people forget or don't really realize is, guess what? Luke Gehrig, after Babe Ruth, hits his home run and they come across the point and, they do their little acknowledgement, right? Wasn't much celebrating back then. Wasn't like today's world.
Yeah,
Well, Luke Gehrig stepped up to the plate and he hit back-to-back jacks.
yeah, exactly. Yep.
And but yeah, a lot of people forget, and but the team was stacked. I mean, you had Herb Pennock win 19 wins. You had White
Right.
Hoy who had another 20 plus win season.
Yeah,
Um,
they used to call White Hoyt Schoolboy. That was his nickname, Schoolboy.
right.
Yeah,
Yep. And and then you had a guy, Red Ruffing, 19 wins also. You're like all these aces on that roster on that rotation was great. But then also you look at that lineup. Okay, you had Earl Combs still killing it.
mm-hmm.
You had Frank Rossetti, a rookie, 1932. Um, he took over for Mark Kerner, and then
Yeah,
you had Babe Ruth, obviously Lou Gehrig. You had Tony Lazzeri. You had Bill Dickey. And, you had another outfielder, but you had you. It was like they found these people because all the time you look at it, these guys that they found, they were all playing independent leagues, like for teams and coal miners, or
right,
like Herb Pennock. Herb Pennock, he started his career, and Red Ruffing, the same thing. Red Ruffing back in 1923, he started with his dad's mining coal mine team. Right, they had a baseball
right.
team in an
Yes,
independent league in Indiana, Iowa, and Illinois.
yeah,
Was scouted by the Red Sox and signed by the Red Sox. Even though he had an accident a couple years beforehand, he lost 4 of his toes.
right, right.
So he went from being a position player to being a pitcher.
Yeah, he didn't have to use his toes to pitch though. Thank God, thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's like it's like all these players that they got, and a lot of these players were hitting over 300 in the lineup, and
Hmm.
they get put. They had players that didn't all hit 300, but most of them did in that murderers row lineup. But they had the players
Yeah.
like contact hitters, like we need on this, like we need today. That would
Right.
put the ball play.
Yeah, and
You
even
know,
Frank Rossetti, he started out as a reserve player, and then in '36 he became an everyday player for a little while. But he was a guy that just played shortstop, like great defensive, solid defensively. But even if he was a $1.74, he'd make a difference. But he really made his difference making plays in the out in the on the infield.
Right, exactly. Yep.
And then also in 1936, we found another guy out in the Pacific League.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
But he
Yep.
was a young kid in 1934 or 1935 after Earl Combs finally retires, the Kentucky Colonel.
Right.
Joe DiMaggio, the Columbus
Yeah.
Clipper,
Yep.
young stud from California, Italian American, but he makes his mark on a bat and he starts out batting behind Lou Gehrig,
Right.
and the rest is history. I mean, you look at this, and here's the thing: is 1936, we went on to win 4 World Series titles in a row.
Right. Exactly. And his brother Dom DiMaggio, he played for the Red Sox, so his brother was a
Mm-hmm.
good ball player too.
Yep. And then
Hmm.
obviously, and then Lou Gehrig, 1934. Guess what he did? He got he hit for the Triple Crown, baseball's offensive Triple Crown, which is he led the league in the batting average, home runs, and RBIs, which he was an RBI machine anyways his whole
Yeah, he
career.
was. Yeah, he was.
But I think he hit
Mhm.
like 375 that year, 40 some on home runs, and 184 ribbies.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's insane. Who does that today? Who does that? 173 RBIs, 184 RBIs. No one's ever going to touch that.
Yeah, well,
That's
the
what it stands
184
for.
RBIs is a franchise record in Yankees.
Exactly. No one's ever going to touch that. It's insane. It's like, how do you do that, man? You must be like Superman or something.
Yep. But yeah, and I mean, you look at a lot of these teams; they would score 12 runs, they'd score 22 runs, they would just clobber teams, or then they would also win with just pitching and some offensive, you know,
Yeah,
because I
most of the
mean,
teams they outclassed because there was no team that was better than them except
well, there's
the
only two
eight.
teams. There's only
Yeah,
2 or 3 teams during that time period that could compete with
the Giants. Yeah,
the.
the Giants,
Well, yeah, the
the New
Giants,
York
but I'm
Giants.
talking
Yeah,
in the AL in the 1930s. 3 teams could compete with the Yankees: the Philadelphia Athletics, the
hmm,
Boston Red Sox, and the Washington Senators behind Freight Train Walter Johnson.
yeah, yep,
And
yeah.
the Senators are no longer the Senators; they're the Minnesota Twins.
Right, exactly. Yep, they were the Senators for a long time though.
Mm-hmm.
They
In
had
the
some good
19,
teams. Yep,
yep, they moved
and
there in like the 1960s, 1970s.
right, and then during that night, from that 15-year period, they were so dominant. They really,
Yep.
eight championships, and then 1941 they were great too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Herb Pinnock. One thing that's interesting and I keep bringing him up, but I'm gonna give him a shout out. He was one of many, even though he did it for a few days, but he enlisted with the Navy in 1918
Right.
and took time skipped the 1918 season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for obviously the service during World War, in military service and during World War I. And it was a list of a lot of different other baseball players that did that. And like we said, what 1941, you would see that after Pearl Harbor happened.
Exactly. A
A
lot of the
lot of
players went
players,
to go fight and
yeah,
went to fight for their country.
even if they didn't really have a spot, like Yogi Berra really didn't have a spot at the time, nor did his
Right.
brother.
Right.
But they They took those years out. Joe DiMaggio, in the middle of his prime, he would go, after 1941. But
Yeah,
then
he
they
was
would come
good.
back later and dominate. But yeah, I mean, but the fact that, like you said, we won World Series titles in 1927, 1928, 1932, 1936, 1937, 1938, 1939, which was another phenomenal year. One of our records, because we got out to one of our record starts for that season.
Right, 1941, they won 101 games and lost 53,
Mm-hmm.
and from June 7th, 1941, over a 59 game span, they went 44-8 during that span.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, in 1941, we had a battle for shortstop. Frank Rossetti was struggling after 1940 season, right? It barely hit, whatever. There's this young guy that Yankee legends remember, and his diehard Yankee fans remember for 40 years after his playing career as the voice of the Yankees.
Yep, the scooter.
Yeah, Phil Rizzuto, the
Judo.
scooter,
Yep.
Mister Cannolis. Yeah, holy
the money,
holy cow,
the money store.
the money store. His rookie season, 1941, before
Yes,
he
sir.
went served in the Navy like Yogi Berra, and yeah.
Yeah, he was the leadoff hitter, and he had 1941. He had a 307 batting average. Not,
Oh
not
yeah, he
too,
was
not
phenomenal.
too,
And when he came back from service in 1943, 1944, guess who guess who got his job back without a real
yeah,
battle?
yeah. The batting
Yeah.
order in the 1941 was this. He had Phil Rizzuto leading off, Red Rolfe third base, Tommy Hendrick batting third, Joe D center field batting fourth, Charlie Keller batting fifth in left field. Then you had Joe Gordon batting sixth,
Mm-hmm.
Bill Dickey batting seventh, Johnny Strummer, I think his name was Hassett. I forgot to write down the
Yeah.
first name. The first baseman was batting in eighth, and then the pitcher,
Right.
whoever pitched that day.
Okay. And
And
speaking of,
they had one, two. They had Phil Rizzuto hit 307, Joe D hit 357, Charlie Keller 298, Joe Gordon 276, Bill Dickey 284, and Hassett batted 285, and Johnny Strum batted 239. So, and Red Wolf batted 264, and Tommy Hendricks batted 263. Not a bad
right.
lineup.
Oh yeah, and then we're gonna go back a few years because this is a particular one. We weren't skipping over it.
No,
But in 1939, the official transition of the Yankees took place. What I mean that is there was a captain's change.
all right,
Lou Gehrig, after the 1938 season, which was another stellar year, though he had some struggles, and he never really slumped, but he started slumping in spring training in 39 and then in the beginning of the season. And a lot of people were wondering what was wrong with him.
all right,
And then we all know that he took himself out of the after he went to see a doctor and they figured out what was wrong with him with a rare disease that was named a long name, but it is ALS was the initial for it, but it later took his name.
all right,
We know it as Lou Gehrig's disease nowadays,
correct,
but people still will call it ALS.
right.
And but he took himself out of the lineup after 2,130 games, a
Yeah, and
record
that's
which would stand.
yeah. They thought that record would stand forever.
But it would stand for 56 years. But
Exactly,
before Cal Ripken broke it in 1995.
exactly.
But the fact of this player who played every day with broken arms, broken hands, broken bones in his hands, you name all the different damages this man had, bum shoulders and everything. He took them out. a man who was obsessed with keeping the streak alive for so many years
Right.
took himself out of the. But then on July 4th, 1939, he handed the reins of carrying the Yankees to Joe DiMaggio officially, but the
Right.
Yankees sent him away with the farewell ceremony in between a doubleheader on July 4th, 1939. And we all know it's famous, was called the Gettysburg Address of baseball. Lou Gehrig's farewell speech, the luckiest man speech, he addressed that. And, he covered anywhere from Miller Huggins to Joe McGraw. And
Right.
even, and around that time, that was when the Ruth and Gehrig feud ended.
Right.
Because, Ruth showed up. He gave a speech. He hugged you. Everybody sees that picture and that video,
Yeah.
one of the few videos
Ruth
of it.
was. Yeah, he was dying of throat cancer back then when
Yep.
he went. Yeah, he couldn't even speak. He couldn't even hardly stand.
Right. He was battling throat cancer then. And
Right.
then you know what? 1948, he dies from another cancer right
Right.
above his eyebrow,
Yeah.
right affecting his eyes.
Well,
So,
he also tried an experimental drug to try to
mhm.
stop it, but it didn't work.
Nope.
I heard about that. They tried an experimental drug that he
Yeah.
wanted to take to try to kill it,
But
but it
yeah,
didn't work.
and you look at how many Hall of Famers came from the Yankees. So, okay, from that stretch that we just covered, 1927 to 1941,
Right.
Miller Huggins, Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
Joe McGraw,
Hall of Fame. They're
Hall
all
of Famer,
Hall of
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Then you look, okay, obviously George Herman Babe Ruth. You look at Henry Louis Gehrig.
Right.
Um, then you also look at obviously Earl Combs, Tony Lazzari. And you could go off Bill Dickey, um, Joe DiMaggio, obviously.
Yes.
Wyatt Hoyt, Herb Pinnock, Red Ruffing, Lefty Gomez, and Yogi Berra, Phil Rizzuto, and yeah, it was like this whole big list. But I mean, you look at this though, because Phil Rizzuto, he went from player, and then in 1956 he joined Red Barber in the booth.
Yeah. Red Barber. Yeah. Yeah.
Longtime radio announcer for the 1930s and the 1940s, and it maybe even started early in 1920s. Started to one of our first TV play-by-plays when we started actually having TV broadcasting in the 1950s.
Yes.
Before then, it was all radio,
Mm-hmm.
and the few films, but you wouldn't be able to see that till you went to the movie theaters.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The
So you
news
had to
were.
either go to the game or you were
Right.
listening to the transistor radio.
Right. Well, that's most of the game. Yeah, everybody listened to the radio back then because that's all it was. I mean, we didn't have
Hmm.
TV. We just had radio.
Yeah,
Listen to
but
all the games on radio.
you had guys like Tom Manning, and then like I said, Red Barber, and then obviously Ben Scully later on with the Dodgers. But yeah, you look at how. I mean, and then there was even an umpire from that era too that made the Hall of Fame, and Bill Cline, who was actually really respected. You
Yes.
know, and back in those days, we complain a lot about umps. We complain about a lot of things, but back in those days, if you complained to the ump for because this pitcher was too far inside, the ump will tell you duck.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, it's totally different game now than it was then. And it's
yeah,
just like some of these guys that play today, they're prima donnas. They're like little babies, like crying about the umpire in the game. Soto, come on, man. He's a big dope, big baby.
yeah.
Come on, man. Really?
And
That's all you do is complain and cry about things, man. Shut
right.
up.
And
You
you,
know?
but you also look at a lot of these guys back then. They had carpentry jobs. They had, they worked trucking jobs. They worked more. Well, like I said, Red Ruffing, Herb Pinnock. They both, uh, they worked in the miners before. I mean, in actual coal mines
Yeah, they
before.
had to work because they weren't making as much money as they do today. You know, it's like Babe Ruth, was making what is that? They said 100,000, 52,000 a year or something like that when
52,000 a year from 1927 up until his retirement in 1935.
when they gave him that contract, the Yankees, 52,000 a
Mm-hmm.
year. That's a lot of money back then,
Yep.
you know. But
And then
some of
you
those
had,
guys weren't making that, so they had to work.
yeah, and then I mean, like when we beat the Cubs in 1932, the World Series, those were no slouches either.
No, I know the Cubs were good. That was a good team too. And what
Yeah.
got Babe Ruth when the pitcher got two strikes on him, the Cubs were talking junk, yelling at him and stuff. And he said, "Okay," pointed to center field. The next pitch, I'm going to hit it right over the flagpole, and that's what he did.
Yep.
And
And then I mean,
then when he was running around the bases, they were still talking to him. And he was going like this with his hands.
right. And then like I said, the first pitch to Lou Gehrig, he deposited it in right field.
Yes,
Bam. And I mean like almost out of Wrigley Field.
exactly. I mean, the power, man, on that team, man, unbelievable,
Oh
man.
yeah, and like I said, but I mean, the fact that you had from Pat Collins to Bill Dickey, and then you had Mark Koenig, he handed it over to Frank Crosetti and a couple others on that team. But they, even when the guys that were like low contact, they just made contact, but they didn't have a high batting average.
Right.
They still made an impact on the team.
Yeah, they all had their roles. They all fit in a certain way, and that's what made them so good. You
And then
know.
when you look at it, for most of the career, Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth, those guys had like 12 wars their whole
Right.
career.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and, and
Who has
I
that
mean,
today? Not nobody I know.
right. And then you had like guys like Earl Combs, who three times during his career until 1936, 35, 36, he hit for the cycle. I mean,
Right.
it's hard enough to hit for the cycle one time in your career. Can you imagine doing
Yeah.
that three times?
Exactly.
And then, like I said, in 1932, 1934, I need you had Lou Gehrig had a four homer game. He was the
Yes.
third person ever in baseball to do it,
Right.
but the first one in modern era from 1920 on to present day. The first person of that period, because the other two that did it, they did it in like the 1890s,
Right.
where it was pretty much mostly inside the park and poorly fielded
Right.
homers.
Yeah.
It was kind of different rules and different deals back then.
Right.
But
You used to have eight. You used to instead of four balls, you used to have eight.
yeah, yeah, and so it was like crazy rules and all this stuff. Um, but for Lou Gehrig to do it, but they got upstaged by one other event in baseball. The same day he did that. Oh, well, okay, so we had Joe McCarthy as a manager, right?
Yeah.
Well, the other John McGraw, remember the guy we covered that was the manager and part owner of the defunct Baltimore Orioles
Right.
that took
Yeah.
half the team to the Giants?
Yes.
Okay, he retired on the same day, and guess what had the headlines? His retirement outstaged the Lou Gehrig's four homers on the papers.
Yeah. Hmm.
Can you believe that? Can you like this whole
Yeah.
career? This guy did things that we be like number one news, and either Babe Ruth would be in front of him, or you know John McGraw would, or somebody else would do something to upstage him. And then even when George Scott played him in the the 1942 film of the Pride of the Yankees. Yeah, the guy got upstage for the Oscars.
Yeah, Gary Cooper played
Yeah,
the
Gary
Lou
Cooper. I'm
Gehrig.
sorry, not
Yeah,
George C. Scott, but
that's
Gary
Gary
Cooper.
Cooper. Yeah, that's one of my
So,
favorite movies. I love that
oh yeah,
movie.
for some reason
Yeah,
I keep mixing up those two, but yeah, Gary Cooper was yes, that's a phenomenal movie. I love that movie.
yeah,
Um, and it's amazing though because and the reason that Ruth and Gary they were friends up until the point, but the reason they had a beef was because the wives had a falling out.
right,
And well, at least they weren't trading wives.
right,
Um,
exactly. Yeah,
the Yankees
like
had that other problem with that, but yeah,
yeah, Fritz Peterson and Mike Kekich, 1973. They traded wives, children, everything.
yeah. But
But it was. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's awesome, and we also got news too. I did some other deal, but yeah, it's great. I'm just trying to see if there's any, but yeah, Nathan with some news, and maybe Joe can come and break the news for us.
Yeah, you know what? And then we were during that year, 1941. Joe DiMaggio was the MVP,
Mm-hmm.
American League MVP, and he had the 56 game hitting streak, which ended in Cleveland, and
Yep.
yeah, it was yeah, it was stopped by stopped by Jack Hilsman or something. Oh, and I can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the
but
third Ken Kentler was the third baseman, and he robbed him of two. He robbed him of two hits.
yeah.
Or else he would have kept going. But he made great plays on those hits.
Well,
And
what's other crazy too? Joe DiMaggio after the 56 homer was snapped. He went on a 40 something game hitting streak.
I know, that was July 17th, 1941, when the streak ended, and then he, like you
Yeah.
said, he went on the 44 game hitting streak after that. Amazing.
Yeah, and you know, there's also the famous line because as a military guy and a history buff, you'll see in different movies, and when they kind of do little flashbacks to 1940 military. I remember this. It was on a show, and they did a throwback to one of the submarines during World War II,
Right,
and so you had these sub guys under the water, and they would be debating between Ted Williams of the Boston Red Sox and Joe DiMaggio, who's the better hitter.
right.
But I mean, if you really look at their side by side numbers, that's like picking Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Or you pick your great hitters here. Um, or when if Pete Rose had somebody that was battling him out in during his time period. Um, but yeah, these two guys were so great hitters, and they were all around hitters. They had some power,
Right.
but they hit doubles, triples, singles, and
Doubles.
they were just tough outs. There were
Yep.
guys.
Exactly.
I'm sure the pitchers had fits because I know they walked them when they snapped the bit. So they robbed them of a couple hits or whatever, and then
Right.
and the only time he got on base was via walk.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And then that's who. Yeah, I think that's who we beat out for the MVP that year. Just
Yep.
Ted Williams.
Yeah.
Ted
But
Williams.
and then you would see like for the next 16 years or so, minus the times that both of them spent time in the military. Well, these two battled it out for MVPs
Right.
perennially, and I mean, Ted Williams, and like I said, the Boston Red Sox, even though they didn't win a World Series since between 1918 and 2004, they were no slouches, especially in the 1930s, 1940s.
No.
They built the team up there, and they
Yeah, they had good
competed.
teams. They
They were
always
like,
competed.
yep, they were up there. Top five, top six teams. And then
Exactly.
also the White Sox were actually pretty good teams throughout that time period.
Yeah,
Um,
old Comiskey Park.
yeah, well, the White Sox, they had a hard time recovering after the 8 players got banned in 1920,
Exactly. Yeah.
but they recovered and they still were a competing team. But it was like this juggernaut in the New York Yankees of the 1920s and 1930s. You had the juggernaut Philadelphia A's. You
Right.
also had the Philadelphia Phillies, which were a juggernaut, the New York
Yeah.
Giants,
Yes.
um, the St. Louis Cardinals, and then you had the Cincinnati Reds with Ernie Haas.
Right.
And then I mean the Cubs we mentioned in 1932. You know who the manager was?
That I'm trying to think who it was. I don't
Well, no, there
remember.
was a manager, but they had another player who was like a player manager kind of deal or whatever. He was kind of retired, but it was
Yeah.
Roger Hornsby was up there.
Yeah.
It's like part coaching, part player. It was they had a lot of those back in the day.
Right.
Um, but but he was a Hall of Famer, elected as a player, obviously.
Yes.
And he was a thorn in pitcher sides too. I remember this case, Roger Hornsby. If
Right.
I remember correctly, with him, a pitcher threw a ball. It was called a ball. Pitcher thought it was a strike, and he said, "Hey, why is that not a strike?" He said, "If it was a strike, Mr. Hornsby would have hit it."
Right.
Or
Yeah,
Mr. Hornsby
because
would have swung,
he was a great hitter. He's one of the greatest hitters ever. One of the greatest hitters
right.
ever.
And some would argue that he was probably better than Ty Cobb, even though Ty Cobb got more hits, obviously.
Right.
But you had Roger Hornsby. You had Honus Wagner, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and you had Ty Cobb for that 19 teens era, 1910, early 1900s, 19 teens. Those were the big boys in the league.
Right.
And then you had, obviously Babe Ruth and all those guys. And then, like I said, the Giants in the 1930s, they had Mel Ott.
Yeah, Mel Ott was a great player too.
Yep, a 500
Great
of
catcher.
over 500 homers. Like back then, hitting
Hmm.
500 home runs was no joke.
Yeah, because not that many players did it back then. You know.
He only had 3.
All right. Yeah, Babe Ruth,
Babe Ruth, you had Mel Ott,
Mel Ott.
and then you had, the other guy was Jimmy Fox. He hit close to 500 or a little over
Yeah,
500.
Jimmy Fox. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I know.
Jimmy Fox and Lou Gehrig had 493.
Yeah, my dad told me about Jimmy Fox. I remember him saying something
Yeah,
about him back in the
Jimmy
day.
Fox was the guy that would battle Babe Ruth for the home run king every year.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
But he played for the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah. Hmm.
And
Our biggest
then
rival.
right. And like I said, Herb Pinnock was one of those guys, the pitchers. He would get loved so much by the teams would acquire him.
Right.
Um, first the Philadelphia Athletics. And then obviously the Boston Red Sox and the Yankees. and then
Yeah.
so on. You had all these guys, the New York Giants for a little bit, but then he finished with the Philadelphia Phillies. But there's an interesting thing during the World War II and a little bit after that, he briefly
Hmm.
changed the name of the Phillies to the Blue Jays.
Right.
When he
I
took
didn't
over
know
as
that.
like a owner, he was like a part owner GM thing.
Right.
Um, but then it later, went back to being the Phillies.
Right.
But if you wonder why they got a team called the Blue Jays,
That's weird.
might be a throwback
I,
to.
yeah, I learned something new. I didn't know that part. I learned something new
Yeah, I
today.
was, I was just looking that up today. I didn't know it either. But I
Yeah.
mean, it just shows you though, that like that whole era from the early 1900s to the 1930s, 1940s, you had so many great players and so many other people that got involved, and they really built baseball to that golden era. And it really, the golden era
Right,
stretched from the 1920s to the 1960s.
right, exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
you
and
had
then
all those great players, all those great teams back in those years. Yes.
yeah, and then from the 1960s to the 1980 or whatever you want to call it, you know, you had like the just this other a whole advanced golden era because you had guys all over the league that could carry a team, and you had so many great teams battling it out.
Yep. Right. You did.
You know,
Lots,
I
lots of
mean, you
good
look,
players. The Yankees got the most Hall of Famers. Is 61? Is it in the Hall of Fame? 61?
yeah, something like that. Now I know, ooh, and Bilo's making me hungry, and I ate earlier. Talking about bourbon barbecue. Ooh.
Send me some, Bill. Send the airmail.
Right, but no, I mean, but yeah, it's great, you know, with the whole way the team was. But yeah, the Yankees, they just were built. And then if you look at it too, from 1941, and we'll cover more in our next show.
Yeah.
After World War II ended, because remember, most of the stars in the league, across the league, they left. And so you
Right.
had they left for to go serve in the war. But you had teams and you had a league, but you had primarily mostly minor leaguers and people that were too old for service in the military.
Right.
But then you also had, you know, we all remember, and we're going to cover a little bit more on that one too. The All American Girls League,
Oh yeah.
the women's professional baseball,
Yes.
um, and that was we're going to cover that too, even though it's not part of the Yankees. But we're going to mention a little bit in there because it's so integral in baseball, and why we hold these people as such high regard. Because I want to cover a lot of the different stars that went to World War II. They
Right.
volunteered, and most of all these volunteered.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them might have get drafted, but they chose to go anyways.
Right.
But yeah, most of them enlisted and volunteered. It's a long list, but yeah.
Yes.
But then after that, we went on another long stretch from 1945, 46 to like you know, 1965, obviously. So that's what you
Yeah,
know.
that's when everything went downhill.
Yep.
64 was the last World Series before they won in,
Right.
in
70,
1996.
yeah,
Yeah.
76.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 76, 77. I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
No, no, it's fine. It's just, you know, oh no, we lost in 76, but yeah, we won 77 and 78
Yeah.
because we were swept by the Reds in 76. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting because there's a lot to cover in that integral part because in the 1940s, toward the end of it, they had to change ownership when Rupert
Right.
died in the 1940s. And then we'll cover more on that too. But
Yeah.
it's just something though that this first dynasty stretched so long, and the fact that we were changing out players, like we were running back a lot of the teams. A lot of the years we're running back with most of the team, except maybe a rookie here, a rookie there, um, or another veteran here and there. But you had guys that they just kept adding, and they will rotate them out. Okay, this guy retires. We got this guy. And we're pulling guys from like the Pacific Coast League, like Joe DiMaggio. We're pulling
Yeah.
guys from the independent leagues, like Red Ruffing. Or he already got pulled with, but we're pulling him from the Red Sox. We're pulling, you know, like I said, Herb Pinnock. We got his services, and then you had all these other guys. You just pulled them. Frank Crosetti was another guy from the independent leagues. You know, and they started in
Well, it's just
independent league.
amazing. It was amazing that they could keep it rolling like that and keep the keep it going with all the different players they had.
Well,
They'd
and
all clicked.
and and then you look at it too is you had Lou Gehrig who was the captain. You had Babe Ruth who was a captain before Lou Gehrig took the reins. But then you had guys like Bill Dickey and Pat Cohn, and a lot of them served as heart of the teams, the emotional guys
Right.
that rallied everyone. Yogi Berra would do the same thing. But
Exactly.
and then here's the crazy thing: Bill Dickey went on to he participated in 17 different World Series.
Right.
I think he might have won 17 or whatever, but he participated in so many of them. the
Yeah.
both as a
Babe, I
player
mean,
and then as a
Yogi Berra had 10 World
yeah
Series wins.
10
One
as a
for every.
player,
Yeah. One for every finger.
right? But Bill Dickey had 8 to 10 as a player, maybe a little more. But then he had a bunch more when he was a player coach.
Right.
And we're gonna cover more about that because it's interesting though. Bill Dickey went from coach playing to coaching.
Hmm.
And a lot of
Right.
the guys did that too, but and then Yogi Bear did the same thing. And then
Right.
uh Elston Howard, it was almost like this catcher to coach thing, and it transitioned like mine. I mean, unfortunately, with Thurman Munson, I don't know if it would have continued after that or not, but unfortunately, we'll never know because he died in 1979.
Right. Yes.
But could you imagine if that guy was a coach?
Oh man, it would have been great. You could imagine what the rest of his career would have been like if he didn't die. And he
Yeah.
was, in my opinion, he belongs in the Hall of Fame. He should be there because he was a
Oh yeah.
great
I
catcher
mean,
at his time.
and that's the thing. The Yankees have like 61 players or coaches or people in the Hall of Fame, right? Including George Steinbrenner and Jacob Rupert.
Thurman Munson. He's up there with Johnny Bench. And Carlton Fisk. He should be in
Oh
there.
yeah. No,
Even even
I think
even Sparky Lau in the '76 World Series said, "Man, we can't get this guy out. This guy can hit."
yeah, and he played most of
They
his.
couldn't get him out.
They couldn't get him out, and he played pretty much on one leg from a good chunk
Exactly.
of his career.
He played all taped up and everything, man. Always playing
Hmm.
hurt. That's what
But
made him so great, man. He was tough, man.
yeah,
You
that's
know.
one guy. There's another guy that um, you know, people want Roger Maris, and we're gonna talk more about him in the '60s. You know, I mean, he had a pretty good career, but it's like borderline. I mean, the fact that he hit 61 home runs was no slouch. Just he hit 38 home runs. That was the closest to 60 he ever got after he hit 61 and 61.
Right.
But, he was a guy that MVP in 1960, MVP in 1961, running
Hmm.
up MVP in 1962.
Right.
And then, his injuries took a toll.
Yep.
So yeah, it's amazing. And, guys, we kind of covered a whole lot. But, I just want you guys to remember, like, the way Ed Barrow built this team and this dynasty, and he kept fueling that dynasty, is the reason it stayed for 16 years. Even though there were some years where they didn't make the World Series, but they were either second or third. They were never further down the list.
Exactly. Yep. They were always up near the top, like you said,
Right.
second, third, first, second, third, like that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you look at all those years, first, second, or third, and you lose into the Washington Senators or the Philadelphia Athletics, were juggernauts themselves.
Right.
That
Exactly.
you gotta kind of tip your cap to it. And back then, you either won the pennant outright in the regular season, or you were going to Cancun or wherever you wanted to go for winter.
Yeah, we didn't have as many rounds of playoffs as they do now. Wild card and this card and that one,
Right.
and oh my god.
And like I said, I mean, you probably paid like $50 to get into games back then. But
Yeah,
people flock to to the things, especially during the Great Depression. They
right.
would flock as much as they had a hard time with it, but they would flock to the stadium. There would be waiting lines, stay going for miles on it. They had, or if they couldn't go to the stadiums, they were all somewhere, large groups at people's houses, tuned in with a transition radio or whatever it was back then, the big old radios, and they were tuned into the Yankees games or tuned into whatever games was on there. And back then, the NBC covered a lot of it.
Right.
They'd have mutual broadcasts, but they'd have alternating where you had announcers for different teams, but they would alternate, especially during the World Series.
Yes, sir.
And so, it's just very interesting because, yeah, like you said, this was back before TVs became a big thing. It was back when, you you were struggling to get through the depression, but everyone was so tuned in with baseball that, baseball really became America's pastime during this time period. And even it was already that beforehand.
Well, I
But
think Babe Ruth had something to do with that. He made
oh
it
yeah.
more
Oh
popular than ever, and
right.
everybody wanted to go to the park to see him. See him hit
I mean,
majestic home runs. So
yeah,
he brought it to the forefront, really.
right. You had guys like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. You had Wyatt Hoyt. You had all these other guys, and they all became. Even though they didn't have names on the back of their jerseys, people knew who they were.
Exactly. They were
You
stars.
know.
That's why they were
Yeah. I mean,
superstars.
everybody was handed out when you went to the games. Everyone was hand printed out the lineups and the
Exactly.
rosters, and
Hmm.
everybody kept the scorecards. That's how they kept in tune with the games.
Yeah. It was good. It was a
Yeah.
special era. You
Yep.
know.
And then and part of that we rely on the broadcasters that cover the games to give us or we rely on game day or whatever. But and I'm sure there are some people that still hold fast to doing the scorekeeping.
Right.
Um, and it's a fun thing. But yeah, nowadays we get mad about we got to pay an arm and a leg thousands of dollars to go see a game, and these players get paid over hundred millions of dollars. But
Yeah. I used to,
like I said.
when I was a kid, I used to listen on the radio before Yankees. They weren't on TV that much back. Until
Mhm.
they put them on PIX and all that. But in the summertime, I used to listen to them on the radio all the time.
Yeah. And
Phil
then, guys,
Rizzuto and guys. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, and that's a great. I've listened to the radio with John Sterling and Susan Waldman. I loved
you
it,
know,
man,
yeah.
because
I like the radio too. Frank Messer, Bill White, Phil Rizzuto. That was great, man.
oh yeah, I'm sure those guys are great too. Because I was like, what? I mean, especially Phil Rizzuto, he'd crack you up in a heartbeat.
Yeah, he's gonna get cannolis for his wife. While he's going, hey, Bill, I gotta go. I gotta get cannolis for my wife, Cora.
Oh yes, um, but yeah, and then guys, if you have any questions or any comments about the area we covered with the Yankees, I mean, yes, Bobby Mercer should have at least a plaque in Monument Park, and I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
and then
should have that.
Billo
Yeah,
also made a statement. Once the Highlanders became the Yankees, we took off. Yes, Billo. Once we officially became the Yankees in 1915, the Yankees really started to tick upwards. But after 1919, when we got Babe Ruth in a December deal, that's when the Yankees really started taking off.
yeah.
It's
It's
like,
1920 was the first spring training he put on
right.
the Yankees uniform after the deal, the
Yeah.
1919 deal.
Because, and hey, Nathan, how you doing?
Hey
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
What's up,
I,
Nathan?
Charles, what's up, everyone in the chat? You guys are doing a fantastic job with the Yankees history.
Thank you.
We
yeah.
learned,
I know.
we, we learned,
I saw your
yeah, we
your
learned.
announcement, so I'm going to let you do it.
Oh yeah, we learn a lot. But first, I want to say we learn a lot each day with you guys, Charles and Sean, with your history of the Yankees baseball, and obviously, you guys have a great knowledge of the game, and you guys bring a great asset when it comes to Yankees history. So I just want to shout both of you out for doing a great job as always for this show. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, but yeah.
Yes,
So
thank you.
so this Friday, my team and I booked our client and former MLB pitcher Justin Nicolino. He pitched for the Marlins, Miami Marlins. He's coming on the show here at 5 p.m. Eastern, so tune in. Get questions ready for him. And then Monday, my team and I also booked our client, our newest client, Payal Doshi. She's a sports reporter, podcast host. She's a owner of her company called Vegan of Miami. So she'll be joining this show Monday, March 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern. So guys, get your questions ready for her and Justin. There's gonna be two great shows coming up, and stay tuned. More things to come here, guys. We're almost there to 1,000. So guys, come on, keep subscribing, liking to this channel, and also subscribe to the World Entertainment Show, the new one, and subscribe to our other show that I work for, Job in the Mouth, which is going to a name change pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. And a lot of things happening with my nation's best company, NIL Dream Team. And like I said, stay tuned. More things to come. My team and I, we love helping out this show. And Joe is the godfather. Shout out to Joe. He is the godfather of the show. And he's a GOAT. Sean, everybody here on the platform and the chat does a fantastic job, as always. So we do it for you guys. And my team and I love helping you guys out, too. So,
Yeah. And it's great, Nathan. You always bring us great interviews, and I look forward to these two interviews. Plus, I think next week we got a lot of them too. So it's a lot of things going on. Plus, it's
yeah.
opening day is next Wednesday, the
Yeah.
25th.
Let's go Yankees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Max Fried
So-
on the mound against possibly Logan Wilson or Logan Webb. So,
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
gonna be
I'm gonna
good.
ask you, Nathan, and I'm gonna ask the same question to Charles.
no, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your history. Keep talking the
Oh
history.
no,
I love
we,
this.
we we pretty much covered. I mean, it's okay. Well, let me ask you this, Nathan. What was really interesting to you with that 16-year span of a dynasty that we
So
just covered?
obviously, I wasn't part of that 16-year dynasty. I was born in '95, but I can tell you is that working with these Yankees legends now as an agent and obviously booking them for events, they always tell the stories from the past, and it's great to learn from them. So the one thing I can tell is, especially in baseball, it is really hard to have a consistent dynasty because there's 162 games, a lot more games than any other league, and also you got to play consistently every day, 3 days or 3 days in a row, 4 days in a row, you name it, and traveling too. So that 16-year dynasty that the Yankees had back in the day, that was truly remarkable and special. And to be part of and to be able to work with some of those players from the past, with doing events for them, doing other things, it's truly special for me because obviously I didn't really get to watch them, but when I was growing up. I watched highlights of them, but they usually tell us stories about the past. So yeah, I would say the 16-year dynasty was special, and it's hard to do. Especially,
Yeah, and I mean, and then here's the thing: is they played 154 games, but in a shorter time span.
yeah,
So back then, the league year was 154. It didn't change to 161 until 1961, or 162 rather. But so back then they were playing double headers and triple headers in daylight, back to back. So you're playing double headers, like from 9 a.m. or whatever time it was you started till till whenever the lights went out. Because a lot of times some games would end up because they didn't have sufficient lighting, especially back in 1930. They were still trying to figure out how to have them big old things that we love nowadays. So, a lot of games were played during the day. And so, yeah, like you said, it was hard to. And then because, and it also makes me really appreciate what Lou Gehrig did. Because 2,130 games and you're playing back to back double headers, not, I played 9 innings and then 3 hours later, I'm going to play 9 innings again. I'm not taking away
Right.
from Cal Ripken at all. That man's a legend himself.
Mm.
But when you look at it, and like I said, I mean, during his career, he had broken bones in his hands, and those gloves were back then were thin. So can you
Yeah,
imagine catching
I don't know
balls?
how they used to catch balls with them gloves. Those catch the ball with them gloves. The way they look, man. You ever
Yeah,
see
and
Babe Ruth's glove? It's like, what is that? How'd you catch
Mhm.
the ball? You
Right.
know?
But no, but then and to your point, Nathan, too. You know what really got me interested in the besides being a history buff, but what really made me interested in learning about the Yankees' history was when you got to hear stories from the legend Yogi Berra.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear Don Larson, and you hear different other stories from these guys, and then or you hear Paul O'Neill talk about meeting Ted Williams and what Ted Williams meant to him. Or how, like, you saw that in '99 when when we were watching, when they brought all the all century team, all the legends that were still alive back then, and they rode Ted Williams on a Fenway Park on a golf cart, and you saw all the players from both dugout, from the AL and the NL. They all came, and everybody just came around that golf cart, and then you're like, but and that's the thing too I love about baseball, is that respect for the past of the game is still large. Like, we just watched the World Baseball Classic, right?
Yep.
Did you hear the interview with with Jorge Posada?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you noticed they were talking, you hear how he talks about Joe Torre.
Mm-hmm. Speaks highly. He speaks highly of Joe Torre, and he respects him too. So
Yeah, well, he said Mr. Torre,
yeah, Mister. Yep.
and you hear the same thing from Derek Jeter. Like, when
They
someone
call him
says,
Mister.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mister.
Speaking of
Yeah.
Joe Torre, whoever's in the New Jersey area and Woodbridge area, May 16th, we're doing an event with Alex Rodriguez, Paul O'Neill, Joe Girardi, Joe Torre, and David Cohn in one setting at Woodbridge Brewing Company, May 16th. Guys, come out. There's going to be a special event with all of them. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Nice.
And yeah, guys, that's a whole lot of baseball right there. Whole lot of baseball years covered, because Joe Torre had a long career playing, and then he had a long managerial career. Um, but then he also still isn't he still part of, like, the commissioner's office or something
Wait, who?
to do with Joe Torre?
I
I
think
think
so.
he's still
Yeah,
still with the disciplinary office or something.
yeah, I think so. I believe so.
Yeah, but either way, that's a lot of baseball. Him. Then you also got, like you said, Alex Rodriguez, Paul O'Neill. You had all these guys. But yeah, and it's so great. But yeah, but I mean, the fact that 16 years, the Yankees were either first, like they won the World Series, they went to the World Series, or they finished second or third in the pennant race.
Yep.
But it just showed you that, that era. But then also you add the fact that these people still played through while everybody was suffering through the Great Depression, in between the wars, and these guys had jobs on the coal mines. You had carpenter jobs. You had all these other jobs on the off season,
Yep.
and then you take a train in between. They would either take train or bus in between the cities when they travel. So you can imagine it's a lot different than what it is today. Now they can just play a game, get on the plane. I mean, I'm sure that still takes it out, but they'll have days off. I don't recall them having days off. Maybe they did, but and I'll probably look at that more further back then. But like I said, they played double headers, and then, man, can you imagine catching 18 innings, 18 plus innings?
No one does that. No, they even pitchers pitched 16, 17 innings back then.
Yeah,
18 innings. They don't do that no more.
But now,
no,
You get lucky if you get 5 innings from a pitcher today, you know?
Charles, you're right. back in the day, you got to see pitchers throw more complete games, and then obviously pitch 132. Sometimes you see pitchers throw 132 pitches sometimes back in the day, but now
Exactly. Yeah, today they cry.
Well,
Yeah.
the famous the famous 16 inning game.
yeah.
Warren Spahn and Minerva or Minnesota, whatever how you pronounce his name.
hmm
Um, they both was like 256 pitches to like 230 some up because like it was walked off at the end, a half inning or whatever it was. But it's like that's crazy though, and that was a 1-0 game. That's what it ended up to being.
Yeah.
So can you imagine throwing a shutout for 16 innings?
Yeah, you're not seeing that today.
Nope. And then and I mean, but then when you look at when we mentioned Wyatt Hoyt and Herb Pinnock and uh Red Ruffing and a few others, all those guys had they pitched for 20 years.
Lefty Gomez,
60, 16 seasons, 17 seasons,
Spud
20 something
Chandler.
seasons. Yeah.
Yeah. Russo. You had Russo, Spud Chandler, Lefty Gomez, Red Ruffing.
Yeah. Lefty Gomez was no slouch. And that was one of
Nope.
the young kids that they added in the rotation in the early 1930s. And he
Exactly.
took off.
Yes, sir. He did.
And it's funny he gets remembered as by his left name his nickname than his um actual given name.
All right.
But hey, you know what? That's amazing. And yeah, like you said, there's a lot of great players back then. On every team that you faced, you always had these guys. But then you also had the bench players who played really well too. And then some of the managers back then too were player managers, so they could sub in too and still manage the game.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine Aaron Boone pinch hitting for Anthony Volpe nowadays?
No. He's
Yeah,
only famous for one thing: hitting a home run in the playoffs. That's it.
Yeah, but when you look at his record for the Reds, he was all right player.
It's not. I mean, I think all the time he's been there, he should have won at least one World Series. Come on, I mean, I know they're telling him what to do and stuff, but come on, man.
Right.
You had plenty of chances. It's right
Yeah.
in front of us. With Savages in the box, how many times are we going to hear this?
It's right in front of us.
Come on.
We're
How
turning
many times are we going to hear
the corner. It's right.
We're turning the corner. Yeah, come on, man. I'm tired of hearing that.
Aaron Boone is going to say that same exact thing this season. Watch.
I like what he said. Hit his hand on the desk and go, "It's right in front of us. We're turning the corner." How many times are we going to hear this thing?
Or you can ask him to do a Laz Diaz impersonation.
Oh my God! Yeah, yeah. Oh my God! I can't take it.
I think someone should go up. Hey, Aaron Boone, how many times are you gonna get ejected now that we have this ABS system?
Hey, ready?
Yeah, right.
Last D is right here.
Yeah.
And Chaz Chisholm, he needs to get his head out of his butt, man. Worrying about the umpires, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Grow up already, man. You're ridiculous, man, with that crap. That's why he can't field and then he strikes out. Stop worrying about the umpires and play your game, man.
That's the thing.
Why do you think the Marlins got rid of him? Because they had enough of his antics, man.
Well, that's the thing that irritates me with him. He's world-class talent, no doubt about it. But then he gets irritated. He lets the ump get into his head.
Right.
Then he makes an error out at second base.
Or he's on base in the other game. He gets picked off. I know it's spring training, but come on, what are you doing,
picked
man?
off, sleeping at second.
Yeah, what are you doing?
You just stole the base. How are you gonna be caught sleeping the next pitch?
Yeah. So he's worried about his bling, man, and his shoes and all that. Come on, man. Get your head in the game, man.
Yeah, but there's one thing though. Aaron Judge has got to lead by example. I know he does it, and it's hard to kind of manage these players when you try to let them be whatever.
Jacob is in the
But
chat. What's up, Jacob?
yeah, Jacob. But
What's
yeah,
up, Jacob?
the thing that irritates me with Jazz Chisholm, but Ryan McMahon, he's got to really figure out that hitting. I mean, I like kind of the twerks, the mechanical stuff, but there hasn't been the results to it yet.
Well,
Um,
you see now what happened in the uh, in the World Baseball Classic. They're gonna jump all over the Golden Boy because he didn't perform. Like he was the captain and didn't really perform
yeah.
in the last game.
Well, like I
I've
said,
heard, I've seen it all day online. Oh, the Golden
yeah.
Boy, he choked.
Oh
Here we
yeah.
go again. You know,
Everybody wants to jump on Aaron Judge.
Schwarber didn't do nothing either.
Well, Schwarber did nothing. The whole team didn't do nothing. Even Bryce
Right.
Harper, aside from that home run when he in
Yeah, he
this
didn't do
eighth
nothing
inning.
either until he hit that home run.
Yeah, I mean the pitching was there, but there was no offense.
I mean, and then like I don't think DeRosa was the manager for that team anyway.
Well, I think the problem was, I mean, DeRosa put himself in hot water with the whole game versus Italy. With I thought we already clinched. Oh well, we already got, but we're gonna try to win it anyways, and then the team falls flat.
And then
And
you had then he didn't put Mason. He should have put Mason Miller in, and he didn't. And he puts Whitlock. Come on, man, what are you doing,
yeah,
man?
but he's gonna be. We're gonna be watching him on the MLB Central. He's gonna give his breakdowns on the players, and
Yeah,
that's fine. But you know what? I like Andy Pettit, but also I like the World Baseball Classic. If teams need managers, Francisco Cervelli, Omar, what's his name? I'm gonna butcher the guy from Venezuela.
oh, I don't remember his name. I
But he's
forgot.
like a minor leaguer, but he was a great one. But also the guy from Puerto Rico and the guy from Dominican Republic. Um,
Yeah, well, we'll see what
Yadier
happens. We'll see
Yadier Molina.
what happens to Boone after this year. If he's still going to be around, or someone else is going to come in there.
Well, given our track record with managers in the last 30 years or 20 years.
Yeah, Joe said I'm a legend. I named them that.
but
Yeah, the Golden Boy.
no, I mean, look, we're gonna there's parts of Aaron Judge's career we gotta appreciate because it's gonna be like crazy. I mean, because he's flirted with the Triple Crown 4 times in his career. He's gonna get it one of these days. But the thing is that as a Yankee, he needs to win a World Series, and
Yeah,
and he's
he
got to
needs to
lead
win
the
the
team
ring,
by
man.
example.
Exactly. Yep.
And the problem is sometimes I think he he makes himself so available with the press that he falls into the traps. Like when they were asking him the question about how does it feel to be in the World Baseball Classic? Is it better than compared to the World Series? The guy has a bitter taste in the mouth from the World Series in 24.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
um, of course you're asking him the question while he's wearing a USA jersey. What do you expect him to say?
Right.
I tip my cap off to some of those guys that chose to play because a lot of other stars they chose not to play for Team USA. But
Right.
a lot of those, but the problem is we had a star-studded team, and they did not execute when they needed to against Venezuela. I'm tipping my cap to Venezuela, and you can't say, "Well, the ump, Rob." No, because the ump called it fair. Venezuela, the whole team showed up.
Yeah,
USA,
man.
the
USA
whole
didn't
team
show up.
took naps in kindergarten
Yeah, they
and then
took it.
showed up in
Yeah,
the eighth inning.
exactly. Yep. Yep.
I mean, what do you want me to say? But I mean, it's a blessing to have that World Baseball Classic because you get to see a lot of these guys and these guys that have other 9 to 5 jobs or other jobs other than baseball, but they're just trying to they're just trying to play for their country, and you got to tip your cap to them.
Exactly.
Um, but all these millionaires, billionaires that are playing for their respective teams. I mean, Soto didn't show up, but yeah, I think Aaron Judge, some of the criticism, they just love to lay onto him because he's such a big guy and he's one of the best in the game. But the thing is, what he probably needs to focus on with the Yankees in the regular season is just go out, play his game, lead by example, and lead in the clubhouse. If there's any questions with the press, to let Giancarlo Stanton come out there, and he knows how to talk with the media.
Yeah, we have to chip in and get Giancarlo a Walker, man, to run the bases, man, with electric scooter or something.
Hey, you know what? He's gonna hit 500 home runs with the Yankees, but it'll probably be next year. You know, and
Yeah,
yeah,
if he stays healthy, he could do it this year. If he stays healthy, he plays enough games.
right. I mean, look, he's what 70
2
away
and 2,
from.
and how do you do?
Yeah,
Do it,
I
do it,
mean,
do it, do it. How do you do it?
2 and 2, and how do you do?
oh, and he gone,
He gone,
he gone.
he gone,
Grab some
he gone.
pine.
Woo! Limo riding, limousines riding, and flying. Woo!
But you know, guys, I'm so happy that the regular season's almost upon us. Now we got our players back from the WBC, all 11 of them.
Yep.
Now we get to see what our regulars think, and who knows? Maybe Jason Dominguez still has a chance to make it, or Randall Grichuk can still make the team.
What you gonna do when the New York Yankees run wild on you?
Oh yeah.
Woo!
What
But
are you
yeah,
gonna do when they coming for you?
but I'm gonna ask this question: if Aaron Judge wins the World Series and performs in the playoffs like he did last year, we win the World Series at the end of the season. Do you think that the fans are going to get off his back, or some of them are still going to ride him hard?
I think they should get off his back if he does.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's what I mean. The guy's a superstar, man. You know, everybody has bad days, but the way they make it sound like he's, you know, he can't perform in the clutch and da 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 da. He's only a
yeah.
regular season player. Come on, man. Really?
Well, he hit 600 in the postseason last year.
I mean,
So
A-Rod didn't do good in the postseason either. To what,
Not-
2009?
yep,
So
2009. But remember, every time he was with the Yankees and he was in the World Series or in the postseason from 04,
Mhm.
the guy had a goose eggs.
exactly.
He'd get maybe a sporadic hit here and there, but he'd be like 0 for every time it was a crucial moment, goose eggs. But he turned it around in 2009.
Just still Judge does something when it more than what he did last year in the playoffs, more when it counts. Then people will stop getting blaming him for everything that happens to the
Yeah,
team.
but then they're gonna complain about took him
Well,
long
yeah,
enough.
Aaron Boone got to go. This one got to go. That one, come on, man.
That's
Get
like,
over
hey,
it.
come on, guys. But here's the thing: whether we get frustrated with the Yankees or not, because we're gonna go through the swoons. Remember, we're got a potential lockout that's probably more imminent after the World Series. So if I were the Yankee players, I would play like there's no tomorrow, there's no next year. Let's go.
The Yankees, they
100.
just got to do it, man. That's it.
Yeah. Because, there's no guarantee when the lockout, and then there's a lockout. No one knows how long that's going to last. And then also the other thing is you can't guarantee that all these players are going to come back after the lockout.
Exactly.
If there's even baseball left after the lockout, because the baseball barely survived 94.
Exactly. Yep.
But yeah, guys. Wow, we've been on for almost an hour and 30 minutes.
I know time flies when you're having fun.
Oh yeah.
Woo!
Woo! Hey, we've gotten the Hulk Hogan. We've gotten the thing. Hold on, let's see if we can get Joe to come on and tell us something about wrestling.
A cup of
With
coffee
the
in the
upcoming
big time. Oh, yeah.
WrestleMania.
Hey, speaking of wrestling, my team and I are working on stuff for that, so stay tuned for that.
Oh yes. But yeah, no, I mean that's fired up. I'm looking forward.
There he is, the one and only.
Hey Joe.
It's the Godfather.
Guys, what a show.
Hey.
Congrats. Very, very, very good show. And the people really liking it. Excuse me. And this is from yelling at the cable at the company of what happened today. But again, thank you. And you know, just amazing show. You guys are historians, and you know and love what you're doing. I admire all the history that you put behind this. And Charles, again, welcome to the team.
I love it. Thank you so much for letting me be part of it. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
It means a lot to me.
You guys should make this a staple now, Sean and.
Yeah, we're gonna have a team. We're gonna have a team meeting, and once the Yankees start, you guys are high on the list to continue what you're doing, and you guys settle on a time spot, and we'll do this.
What?
It's really good. It's soothing. It brings back memories, and it's so important for people to always keep memories, not only in sports but in their hearts, for their family, for their loved ones. And when you have a something like this, it brings back the joy, and it brings back the good times that you had regardless. So I want to thank you guys for for what you do, for your knowledge, and let's continue the success. And I, for one, am very glad you're on our team. I really am. So I thank you very, very much for that. And the same, of course, what I can't say about Nitin and his team. It's all fantastic. As every interview gets better and better and better. As I always say, how can that top and then something else top, and it's just amazing. So I am so looking forward to this New York Yankee season, and I want to win. I want to win a championship with not only the team of the Yankees, but the team that we are building here in YANKEEMania, because each and every one of you love the Yankees so much, and I love that passion, and I love everything about it, and I love everybody in the chat. They are so passionate. I know sometimes that people can get a little upset, a little annoyed at the Yankees, but it's one family, and it would bring me nothing but joy to win a championship together, all of us. Think about it, how fantastic that would be on this journey that we call YANKEEMania. And I know I wouldn't want to share it with anybody else but this group. And if we have one fan, or we're leaping towards 1,000 subs, and what is going on here is magical, and we got to keep the magic going. And it starts with the on-air talent, and what we have is talent, and what we have in our chat is second to none, who care about each other. And this is an amazing journey I'm on. I had a long talk with my family tonight, and I said that this journey with this second family is just amazing. It's an amazing thing, and all I could say is thank you, people. Thank you, each and every one, every fan, every subscriber, every time you listen, whether it's good or bad. If we deserve criticism, we should get it. If we deserve praise, we should get it. But one thing's for sure, we love each other, and that's what counts.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I just wanted everybody to know what I'm feeling, and the joy that I have with this show. And keep up the good work. And fans I don't think of you as fans. I think of everybody as family. Thank you for supporting us. Keep it going. And I promise you won't be disappointed. And imagine us winning a championship together. I can only imagine. So I just wanted to, did not mean to interrupt your show, but I felt it was time to say something.
No, you're not interrupting anything.
No.
You're all
So good.
We're all
You're,
family. We love you, Joe. There's a reason why we call you the Godfather of this show, and you run the mafia. So Joe runs the
right.
mafia here, and
Well,
YankeeMania Mafia.
yep,
Oh
and
yeah.
Joe Bengoy is a goat, the legend, the goat, and everything. So he
Right.
and
and,
plus sorry, but my team and I love helping in this show out. And guys, we're getting close to 1K, almost there, and we have to get the champagne bottles ready pretty soon for that when it hits
yeah,
1K.
Right.
Let's
and
go. Please like and subscribe. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, and if you guys had not checked out, y'all had Joe, Nitin, and Evan. They had a great interview.
Oh, it's Joe and Evan. We just
Or Joe and Evan.
I always join at the end to surprise our clients. So
Yeah. Sorry for that. But they had a great interview with
Mike
the
Keenan,
New York.
he's
Yeah,
cool.
Mike Keenan, the coach of the world champion 1994 New York Rangers hockey team.
Yep.
And if you guys had not checked it out already, I highly recommend y'all go and do it because y'all gonna love it.
And
And it
we got two more coming up. So this Friday, my team and I have booked our other client, Justin Nicolino, 5 p.m. Eastern, former Miami Marlins pitcher. And then Monday, we booked our newest client, Payal Doshi. She's a sports host, podcast host. She does amazing things. So, guys, get your questions ready for both of them. Justin will be joining Friday, and Payal will be joining Monday.
yeah.
and I do want to say one thing, and then I'll shut my mouth. But I also wanted to give a big shout out to not only the chat, but there are a lot of people here who are very loyal to us. And all I want to say is, and I'm going to call out some people. I know I'm going to forget some people, but it's about time that you get some praise. So I am going to start out with T Road. I'm going to start out with Cruise Control, Michael, Charles, even though he's on the team, Chef Nick, Celia, Katie, and the list goes on and on. I want to give you guys Bill O, Real Bill, Ken. The list goes on and on. And if I did mention your name, it's not because I just a lot to do, but it's about time that I give you praise. And I can't thank you enough for sticking with us, sticking up for us. You know, we've had a few bumps in the road with some people that are very bitter. That means we're making hayway. So we stick as a team. Celia, I want to shout out because she's stuck up for the show, and so is everybody else. But sticking up for Chef Nick, I'm not afraid to say it. Everybody, like I said, we defend each other, and the few people that don't like what's going on or don't think of anything highly of the show, well, shame on you, because if 1,000 people and 88,000 people in 28 days can view the show and not have a problem with it, then why does one or two people have a problem with something like that? And if you're going to bother, let's say one individual here, then the chat gets very upset and they defend it. There's no reason why we can't all be in harmony. We have enough stuff going on in the world. This is something to be proud of, something to hold and relax with, not stupidity that we don't need it. We don't need this in podcasting. No creator deserves it. Every creator deserves a shout out. They deserve because they're good at what they do. And the people that knock it down, I would like to see you do it. And I'd be the first one to welcome you to do a segment and see how hard it is or how easy it is. It's so easy to be critical, but why don't you do it yourself? and let us know how you feel. It's so easy for you to call me a name, or do whatever the heck you want to do. But it's not easy for you to do what you need to do to better your life and to better the lives of other people. Is it so hard to say thank you? Is it so hard to help an elderly person cross the street if you see them there? Is that so hard? But yet you can do a show and you get criticized, or you're talking about their background, or if they're fat or they're stupid or they're retard or anything. Yeah, that's what we get. And the chat has to know about it. But everybody gets it. Everybody gets it, and we roam. We all go through it, each and every one. But we're all here to say that we will fight, we will fight, we will fight everything. So, and nothing's going to stop us. And we're going forward with so many wonderful shows, so much fun. I mean, we don't do this just for the sake of doing something. We do it to bring joy. That's what we need in life, to go on and work with your families and your friends and everything like that. If you can't smile for 1 minute, then what do we have in this life? What do we have? And that's what we're all about. And that's why people like Nitin, he works his ass off. And I'm sorry. I don't curse, but I got to say it. He works his ass off. I work my ass off. Everybody on this staff works their ass off. And I'm not afraid to say it. And it's about time that we stand up for the rights of all these few trolls that try to ruin a wonderful, beautiful day, and have people second guess what they're doing. You're doing nothing wrong, any creator. You're not doing anything wrong. And I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, whether I know you, I don't know you, or I don't agree with you, or I agree with you, keep doing what you're doing. Don't let anybody tell you no. Go for it. Because that's what it's all about.
Yep.
Love and family. Love and family. And if people don't like that, do you understand that when you go to sleep at night, it's an honor that you wake up in the morning? Be thankful you're waking up. Look in that mirror and say, thank you, God. Whether you believe in God or you don't. Somebody's believing in you because you are waking up. And this is what we all take advantage of. Everybody takes advantage of it. Think about it. All the families that lost everybody in 9/11. We forget about that, right? Do people laugh about that? So can we just, for all the creators, for everybody, stand as one. Let's stand as one, because that's what it's all about. And all the chats and the people that want to put us down and want to do this and want to do that. You know what? Somehow you are in God's hands. And there's got to be a good part of you. And one of these days you will wake up and you'll say, what did I do? You listen, you can call names all you want. I don't give a damn. But you are not going to put down you're not going to put down the staff. You're not going to put down anybody that wants to do good and smile. When you smile, you're a great person. If you're miserable, then you choose to be miserable. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I had to say what I had to say to stand up for YANKEEMania and World Sports Mania, and for this beautiful staff and this beautiful chat that we have. Keep it going, everyone. Don't let anything bother you. And we are here, and we're strong, and we love each and every one of you. Thank you very much. I am so I hope that my message can come out loud and clear that we are all family on the internet. Keep it going. Keep what you're doing. Everybody's doing a great job. There's millions and millions and millions of people out there. There's enough for everybody. So let's be thankful. Please. That's what we have Thanksgiving for, to be thankful. Let's do this.
Yeah. And no, Joe, we appreciate you. We appreciate Nathan. We appreciate everybody in this team and then on this chat, everybody. But yeah, Joe, you said it right on. And guys, remember this: we can either choose to be positive or we can choose to be negative. And and that's with everything. But I'm gonna close it out with an Irish saying or an Irish blessing because St. Paddy's Day was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But it said, "May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be ever at your back. And may I'm gonna forget a lot of it, but until we meet again, may God hold you in his hands." But we're gonna finish this, and guys, we got a lot of stuff here on this channel. Keep it coming. Tell your friends, like, subscribe, and I'm gonna let Charles finish out the Hulk saying.
What you gonna do when YankeeMania runs wild? I mean, YankeeMania runs wild on you.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yes. And
Love
you know what? I love talking about the Yankees history with you, Charles.
I love it
We
too,
love
man.
talking.
I love it.
I
Yeah.
just want to say, guys, well said from Joe and obviously Sean and Charles. You guys do a great job with the Yankees History Show, and like I said, we got to make this a staple, and you guys do a great job bringing out the
Every
history.
time I come on here, it makes my day because I love it so much, man.
Oh, yeah.
I love,
And Charles, you've
I know I've been a little bit sick there for a bit. It happens, man. Because
Charles, you've been the number one fans. You've been number one since this thing has started, and you've been in the chat every single day and promoting it, and now you're part of the team, which is cool. So
I love it. Believe me, I appreciate it so much that you let me be part of it.
Yeah,
I mean, it means a lot to me.
and like
You
I
don't
said,
know. You don't know what it means to me. You really don't.
I know. But this Yankees History Channel could be something big down the line, and I actually, down the line, maybe my team and I can get some of our clients like from who played for the Yankees from the past, and maybe they can come on and talk about it with you guys at some point down the line.
Yeah,
So,
that would be great
yeah.
too. That would be
Oh, that
great
would
to
be
interview players from the past. Oh my God, I'd be in heaven.
Oh yeah.
yeah, so
Maybe we can get somebody.
we can potentially do that, and yeah, so yeah, guys, keep it up, keep up the great work, and
More
Joe,
like-
like I said, great points, and Sean, like I said, great points too, and Charles and everybody in the chat that we do it for you guys. So this is what we do. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I also want to end it with this. While we have quite a few people here, want to remind everybody, don't forget, I mean, aside from all the shows that we have, Sunday night is going to be a really, really good, I wouldn't say wrap-up show, a preview to the baseball season. So I don't think anybody's going to want to miss that. Everybody's going to have a say. I'm really hoping that all the panel could come up one way or the other and give their views on the American League, the National League, and what is ahead, all the way up leading to by the end of October into November 1st. So come at 8 o'clock on Sunday night, guys. I think you're really going to enjoy the show, and there may be a surprise or two for you. So please come to our wrap-up show. We're actually going to call it the preview of the Yankee Journey 28, and and obviously 28 for the championship.
And we haven't really talked about that crazy Bam 83 game, 83 point game, but maybe in that NBA roundup.
Right.
When we do that,
we'll get that done. We'll get that
done.
In the meantime, anybody else a quick anything? I'd like to end the show by a few promos, and that will lead us out of here. So is everybody okay?
Yep.
We're all good? All right, everyone. Well,
I'd just
thank
like
you.
to
And
thank everybody for coming and enjoying the show. Thank you very much.
we will. Yes, thank you guys for a great job. And guys, we love you. And we're going to leave you with a few promos, and that will lead us out. And we will see you tomorrow morning with coffee, bagels, and Yankee talk, and then all our other programs that will be coming on the Yankee game, and Jason doing the March Madness on our World Sports Mania channel tomorrow in the afternoon. But we'll go all over that tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you soon. Enjoy some of the promos of the people that are very caring for the show. Good night, everyone.
Hi, I'm Tony Ferrara. I am a sports and pop culture expert and the founder of Ferrara Media, and you're watching NY Yankee Mania.
Let's go.
I'm Raquel Aurelia, and you're watching World Sports Mania Entertainment.
Hey, I'm Angelo Venuto, and I'm here with New York Mania Entertainment.
Woo.
Hey, everybody. Tommy Green
Yeah.
here, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Let's
I
go.
want to thank you for watching NY Mania, and come back
Like that.
again and see us.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it is Deb Witkus from the blog
Woo.
Blitz, host and reporter, and you are watching New York Mania Entertainment.
NY Yankee Mania.
Hi, I'm Bria Frisbee. I
Yeah.
work with the Nation's Best NIL Dream Team,
Oh.
and I was on NY Mania today on February 19th. It was awesome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eugenia Kuzmina. I am
Yeah.
an actor, comedian, fashion model, and a writer. And I'm really excited to be here today on NY YankeeMania with Joel. And I can't pronounce your last name, but you have to learn me. And I know it's from Sicilian Mafia.
I am Katharina Michio.
Yeah,
and
Katarina.
you
Let's go.
Oh, yes.
NY Mania.
I'm Marnie Schneider. I'm
Right,
the
let's
author
go,
of
Marty.
Football Freddy and Fumble the Dog, Game Day in the USA, and also the author of Baseball Billy and Bunt the Dog, Game Day with the New York Yankees. And I am so excited to be part of the New York Yankee Mania show. Thanks, everyone.
Oh,
Hello, everybody. This is Bip Roberts, former Major League ball player, and you're watching New York Yankee Mania. Enjoy. What a great show.
guys,
Hey, y'all. You're watching NY Yankee Mania, where we get motivated about the sports we talk about. We're passionate sports and real life talk. You're watching NY Yankee Mania. Hit the like and subscribe.
What is up, everybody? It is Evan from NY Yankee
go.
Mania. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the show. We have Yankees news, overall baseball news, basketball, entertainment, and everything else. Come along for the ride. It's music to your ears.
I'm Kayla Welsh, and you're watching NY
go,
Yankee
Kayla.
Mania.
Wishing you a speedy recovery.
This is
Yes.
Nick Ramachandra from the NR Media. You're listening to NY
Wait, who's
Yankee
that guy?
Mania. Like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.
No,
This is Johnny Salami from NY Yankee
yeah,
Mania.
Johnny Salami.
Like
Let's
and
go.
subscribe.
Tomorrow, hey Joe, real quick. Tomorrow, we're celebrating an Indian festival. Tomorrow, for us, we're celebrating Ugadi.
We celebrate St. Joseph, so we got we got two
We
great
got
things
two
going.
holidays in one. Ah.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're celebrating Ugadi festival. I'll post more so people know about it tomorrow. So
You got
Oh,
it.
yes.
Well, thank you, everyone, and have a great evening. And stay well. We love each and every one of you. See you in
Yep,
the
let's
morning.
go.
Let's go, Yankees.